The rabid Marxist ideologue, Byron York, writing in the Washington Examiner. I'm going to use this issue of the border in her pathetic speech, which kind of demonstrated everything. When she walked about 20 yards on the border for about 20 minutes, never found a single illegal alien. There's millions of them. She doesn't find one. Then she gives this speech. When she was running, Byron York points out way back when, in that campaign in 2019, Harris favored decriminalizing illegal border crossings. She also favored taxpayer-funded health care for illegal immigrants. She favored sanctuary cities. She would have expanded the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program and given deportation relief, quote unquote, to millions of people in the United States illegally. At the same time, she opposed virtually everything then President Donald Trump did to secure the border, from strengthening physical barriers on the border to the Remain in Mexico program to detention and expulsion of illegal border crossers. Had Harris miraculously won the White House in 2020, she would have set off the same border crisis that Biden did, and maybe worse. So when Biden actually did set off the crisis, he had Harris's full support. When Biden put her in charge of dealing with the root causes, quote unquote, of the crisis he had caused, he, she, and everyone else understood it was a way of appearing to deal with the problem without dealing with the problem. And that is precisely what Harris did. She took a few perfunctory actions and things got worse because she's a Marxist radical ideologue, just like Daddy. She's a pathological liar from her friends at the Center for Immigration Studies. She keeps waving around this bipartisan bill, and she says, if I'm elected, that bill will come up and we will get it voted on. And I'm used to dealing in bipartisan ways. I'm used to dealing across the aisle. And it was Donald Trump who stopped this. Not the bill. Not the bill. And Donald Trump caused the border crisis. Pathological, serial liar. They say that the Center has previously analyzed that bill, and to say that it offered more new impediments to border security than it would have eliminated would be an understatement. The issue is that the bill itself is 380 pages long, and I guarantee you she hasn't read it. And few, if any, in the press have the time or acuity to not only read it, but more importantly, to understand what it would do and what it wouldn't do. Consequently, most of Harris's claims about the legislation have not been publicly challenged. I've been trying to do this as much as I can. Moderator David Muir, remember him, the phony during the ABC News debate? He did not do much to advance understanding of the bill when he followed up Harris's statements with the following question to Trump. Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border. It didn't. That, as we say, they write, assumes a fact, not an evidence. That bill died because it needed to die. While reading thousands of lines of complicated bill text is a challenge for most reporters, actually looking up the Senate vote count on that bill is not. James Lankford was the only Republican Senate supporter of that bill who could objectively be called, as Harris put it, most conservative. Centrist senators Mitt Romney, Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins also voted in favor during the test vote. But notably, opposition was bipartisan as well. Massachusetts Democratic Senators Elizabeth Warren and Ed Markey voted against it. California Democratic Senator Alex Padilla, New Jersey Democrat Bob Menendez, now heading to prison, and even Senator Bernie Sanders, Stalinist, they voted against it and joined the 45 Republicans. If anything, there was bipartisan opposition to the bill. And by the time the bill came up for a second vote, its last vote in May, opposition to it was pouring in from both sides of the aisle, with Senators Cory Booker, Democrat, LaFonso Butler, California, Democrat, and even Lankford and Sinema voting no. Murkowski was the only Republican holdout still in support. They point out, I seriously question whether people like Sanders, Booker, or Warren would even take a call from Donald Trump, and can guarantee that they wouldn't allow their decision to be swayed by him. She's a pathological liar, and so are you frauds in the media. All you had to do is look at the vote, and you would know she's been lying and lying and lying. All you had to do is read the bill, give it to one of your interns or research assistants, and you would know that you are repeating her propaganda. But that's what you want to do, isn't it? This bill made catch and release the law, making stay in Mexico impossible. should Donald Trump, God willing, be elected president. The bill would require work permits for illegal aliens on a pathway to citizenship. The bill would require provision of taxpayer-funded lawyers. You folks who can barely make ends meet, you'd be paying for lawyers for illegal aliens. That's in the bill. The bill would make legal up to 5,000 illegal aliens a day. That's 1.8 million a year, not even including gotaways. Tens of billions of dollars for sanctuary cities and sanctuary states. Tens of billions of dollars for NGOs, these front groups that keep pushing illegal immigration. It would have done nothing. You know what it was? It would have shrined 95% of Biden's activities. It was an amnesty bill. Now, Kamala Harris keeps saying she prosecuted transnational groups. Oh, yeah, I know who these people are. I'm a tough prosecutor. I know how this works. When I was Attorney General of California, I know who these people are. You don't need to lecture me about prosecuting these people. Oh, yes, I do. I have looked. I've asked the media to look. Now others are looking. I can't find a single actual case in which she was the actual prosecutor, where she actually went in the court and litigated the case, let alone with transnational gangs. If I'm wrong, I ask Kamala and her campaign, please present us with a stack of prosecutions that you personally handed as DA for 8 years and Attorney General for 8 years. Why is it like finding where's Waldo? Or for that matter, where's Kamala? But even that aside, Joel Pollack writes, former Trump administration Department of Justice official Jeff Clark said that he can't find evidence that Kamala Harris ever personally led the prosecution of a single case at the local or state level. I cannot either. So why do I have to look? If they're proud of her record as a prosecutor, give it to us. I'm looking to see whether she actually first chaired a trial ever, Clark told Charlie Kirk. And Pollack says, one would think that records of her case would be pretty easy to find online, but that's not the case for that time period. Go ahead and look. Clark notes that he might have to do some research in person and actually go to courthouses and find out. In other words, it's a joke. Remember, she said she could reach across the aisle, she says in this speech. Unlike Trump, who's so partisan and so political. Oh, Kamala, this one speech gave us every aspect of her pathetic personality traits, every single one. I can reach across the aisle. So the Washington Examiner wrote a few months back, Kamala Harris's big lie. Harris has never attempted bipartisanship in her entire career, nor passed any bipartisan legislation. It's no coincidence that Harris ranked as the most left-wing senator while she was in the Senate. She was a reliable vote for the most partisan Democratic legislation as vice president. She continued the same way, casting more tie-breaking votes than any other vice president in American history, all of them for the most partisan, most divisive, most radical legislation the Democratic caucus could muster. And now we get to the end. This isn't about Kamala Harris. This is about keeping her out of the presidency. She's a wrecking ball. She's a liar. She's a mess. She should be nowhere near the presidency. And for those who are upset about my telling the truth about Kamala, her personality, I would say character, but I don't think there's much there. You're being mean, Mark. I don't need lectures from people who called Donald Trump Hitler. Joy Reid, the rest of the reprobates in Conga Line on MSNBC, and the usual reprobates. Here's what we know, thanks to ICE. This is the factual, actual, unequivocal, undebatable result of Harris and Biden on the border, or not on the border. 20 million illegal aliens. 13,099 murderers released into our country, roaming in your communities right now. 15,811 released rapists. Catch and release. Catch and release. That's part of the bipartisan bill, you know, into our country. 425,431 released convicted criminals who've committed other crimes into our country. Ladies and gentlemen, that's 500,000 criminals. 350 released terrorists. 325,000 missing unaccompanied children. Hundreds of thousands of missing women sold into sex slavery. She did this. Biden did this. They did this. They are contemptible. They lie, they're extremists, and they mumble about it.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.